Hi, everyone. I want to continue the explanation of how to do a literature search by talking about Web of Science. The other video told you about EconLit, which is a good tool if you have a topic you want to investigate and really just want to either start from scratch or look in areas for papers where you haven't looked before. But if you already have a paper in the area of interest, on the topic you're interested in, another approach you can take is to use Web of Science, which will let you take a paper and basically trace it, sort of what we consider forward and backwards. By backwards, I mean look at all of the papers that it cites. So typically papers are going to cite other papers that are relevant to them, right? So you can trace backwards, looking at what a particular paper on this topic, the other papers that it cites on that topic. And that's usually a good way to work backwards towards older literature uh, that may be relevant, sort of its antecedents. The other direction you can go is forward by looking at the papers that then cite this paper. So let me just make that a little bit more concrete. So suppose that we have this paper here, Selection, Growth, and the Size Distribution of Firms by Urzo Lutmer. So this was published in 2007 in the Quarterly Journal of Economics. Um, and so we have this paper, and now we want to know first what papers it cites and what papers cite this paper itself, because those are usually good places to look for other literature that's related, so other papers on this topic. So to start, we want to actually first get to Web of Science. So the way you do that is going to, on the library website, go to Articles and Databases, and then over here in Popular Databases, you'll see Web of Science / Web of Knowledge. Okay, so you go over here to basic search. So I'm just going to pick title and say, just copy this over. See if we can get it. And so this is the, when you put in exactly the title of the paper you're interested in, usually it is what comes up. And so we can go over here to this paper selection, so it gives you the abstract and everything. We already have this because we already have the paper. That's not terribly useful, but what's useful over here is these two things. So you can see it was cited 105 times, and it has 57 cited references. So what this says is that this paper cited 57 papers, and then since it has been published, it has been cited 105 times. So if we want to work backwards towards to the papers that this paper cites, we can go here. And so now you have all these papers. So we can see it cites a model of growth or creative destruction. So the creative destruction paper by Aghion and Howitt. This papers on monopolistic competition and product diversity. So these are all, a lot of these are very well-known firms, but they're all quite useful. And so you can then go through, and if you want to trace it back even further, you can, if you click here, you can see this paper is, who does they cite? This paper cites 22 people. What's also interesting is that you can take a paper here and click on the times this has been cited. So this is interesting. So if you want to think of these papers as sort of the parents of this paper, then these papers might be its siblings, right? Anyways, so you would go through, and if you're doing a literature review, you'd open up your JabRef file. You can go here, and this is nice because it has like it has the information, the title, and the abstract or whatever. You could also put this into Google Scholar, as I mentioned in the other video, to get the full the full BibTeX to add into your JabRef, and then all you need to add is the abstract here as well. Now, if you want to go in the other direction, you can go over here to the time cited by this paper. So these are so typically these papers are all these papers that the paper cites, the cited references. These are all going to be older papers, right? So this paper was published in 2007. these papers are 1992, 2001, 1977, et cetera, right? These ones that cite that paper are generally all going to be more recent, so 2016, 2015, whatever. One other thing I want to point out while you're doing this, when you pull up something in Web of Science, uh, it has this odd practice. So typically by default, it will sort things in an unusual way. So I guess when you click on the papers that it cites, so the papers that our original paper cites, it usually lists it in the order in which it is cited, because otherwise I can't come up with any way why it's sorted in this way. Um, on the other hand, the papers that cite our original paper are often sorted by publication date, which is really not what we want. Um, a more useful thing is to go time cited, for example. Uh, and now, in which case, you'll get things like, so this paper, of course, is quite relevant to the study of power laws. Basically, anything by Gabay is going to be related to power laws. But yeah, so and this will get you a general sense of the most important papers cited by this. Unfortunately, there's really no way to cite to sort by relevance because Web of Science doesn't understand topics of papers. It only understands citations and whatnot. All right, and so that's just a quick introduction to Web of Science.